Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you. Visit cloudsigma.com/thisweekin for a free $200 credit.
Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by MailChimp. Manage lists with up to 2,000 subscribers and send up to 12,000 emails per month for free with MailChimp. And by Squarespace, an all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website and now an online store. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com/twist and use offer code TWiST4.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. It's This Week in Startups. Today on the program, Doug Rushkoff, media theorist, pundit, and the author of Present Shock. I've got the book right here. We're going to hear all about why our present, what do you call it?
Our present
might be
shocking.
It might be screwing up our future or past or something. It has something to do with tense. I don't know exactly. We're going to get into it. One of the smartest guys I know on the program today. Stick with us. It's going to be amazing.
Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis. We are here on This Week in Startups, the show where we talk about technology, making a dent in the universe, entrepreneurship, building companies, and hey, the media is a big part of that. And today on the program, Doug Rushkoff is going to talk about his amazing new book, Present Shock, when everything happens right now. Real time is a very important topic. As a matter of fact, Inside.com, my next project, is very much based upon the river of news and being in the sort of flow of real-time information. So I'm really fascinated to talk with him, one of the smartest people I've known him for 2 decades, and you're in for a real treat today. And you're in for a real treat if you use MailChimp. Isn't that a pretty good segue? You like that? And now you get to see me embarrass myself, Doug. MailChimp. That's it. MailChimp is the software I use for my mailing list. You got a big mailing list, right, Doug?
Yeah, MailChimp wouldn't take me.
Too many?
No, I gotta email 6,000 people and get verifications from each one of them.
It's a very good point. What they're doing is they're protecting against Russian spammers and insanity. However, I know the CEO. And I will get you VIP.
Oh, cool.
Because, no, this is a serious thing. They don't know. Everybody tries to get in there.
No, exactly. I only want to send one email every 2 years. So, but if I'm going to send one email to everybody to ask them if they can,
This is like an inside thing.
Yeah.
If you see, this is how protective they are of their service.
It's 12,000 emails.
It's exactly right. 12,000 emails per month. 2,000 subscribers are free. 2,000 subscribers free. 12,000 emails per month. But you got 6,000. You have to pay a little bit, but it's really affordable. And they're constantly releasing new, amazing features like mobile-friendly email templates, which I'm using. And version 8 finally has multi-user access. What that means, Doug, is you could have your assistant send an email, and they don't have the ability to download your email list and sell it to somebody. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
There you go. And there's no contract, and the free plan is
and
always
it's based
free.
on monkeys, which is the coolest thing of all.
Basically, it's based on monkeys. But thank you to our friends at MailChimp for making great things possible. So just running it down, we've known each other for a long time. You've written 16 books, including Media Virus, Exit Strategy, Ecstasy Club, which was going to be made into a movie. It never happened. We'll hear about that. A couple of frontline documentaries. You teach at NYU's ITP program. You're on the advisory board of Meetup. That's kind of cool. And we've known each other forever.
Yeah, and I work at Code Academy now.
Oh, you work at Code Academy?
Yeah. Well,
Code Academy.
Code Academy. I'm kind of their freelance, at-large digital literacy advocate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what's up with the book? Why'd you write it? What is it? Tell me. Give me the stump speech. You must be on the road now selling this book.
Yeah, although I've been talking more about it than selling. I should sell it. I should really.
Well, don't worry. That's my job.
You'll sell it. Okay,
I'll sell
good.
it. You just tell me why you wrote it.
I wrote it because, really because I wanted people to understand the digital media environment. So how is it different from what went before? And I guess that when it all gelled for me, it was probably 10 or 15 years ago, and I couldn't express it quite. And it was that when digital technology came, I felt like it was going to give us tremendous slack, tremendous freedom, tremendous ability to just do what we want in our own time.
Why?
You know, why? Because it's asynchronous communication. Right? Because it sits. If you get an email, it sits in your email box until you get to it. So you don't have to be all there in real time. You can do all sorts of time shifting and kind of take charge. And it feels to me like instead of truly embracing everything that's new and cool and different about the digital age, what we've done is tried to extend the industrial age past its prime, past its due.
So people are working even more today. So the technology was supposed to free us to a certain extent. We'd be able to come home to our families, have extra time, go into work late, be more efficient at work.
Right. So instead of being kind of on when you want to in this spontaneous way, we're kind of always on and sort of more the slaves, not to the technology, but to the people behind it. And when I look all the way back at it, I mean, and this gets to a big conversation, but the actual motivation, the honest one, the honest, unshared motivation for writing this, is that when I look at the difference in time, in the way time happens in the industrial age and our age, I look back and I say, well, gosh, the industrial age was this kind of time is money, maximize the efficiency of everything world, a world in which, as you know from launching in VC, where money literally has time embedded. It has a clock in it. Money is lent out like a little ticking bomb at interest. It's got to grow and get paid back. That's an operating system that we're running the whole digital thing on that old operating system, rather than if we can disintermediate business and education and the libraries and everything else, why can't we disintermediate central banking? But when I look at the great digital age companies, the Googles and the Facebooks and the Twitter, they're great at disrupting their own things, but they're kind of refusing to disrupt the economy. They still just have good old-fashioned exit strategies. They're still beholden to shareholders on the stock exchange rather than really flipping that on its head.
And people today, I mean, you've wrote a lot about the ADD generation before, ADHD, all this kind of stuff. Today, it feels like all the social norms have changed. Being constantly on your phone, not being present. It's almost like what we're doing right now, looking at each other in the eye and having a conversation, it seems so rare. Because on this television program, we wouldn't take out our phones because we would look rude. But at dinners, we're going to do that all the time.
And the irony of it in our particular case is all the digital stuff is the excuse for us to actually get together. We wouldn't take this long and look this directly at each other if we didn't have this digital thing to be anchored in. It's just so hard to make the time, in another way. But you're exactly right. It's like there's so little of this. You walk into a room with everybody on their devices. Not to say the devices are bad or that they shouldn't be doing that and all that, but the room is a different quality. It's no longer this group of people sharing space together. It's these fractious little individuals.
And has the technology, in your estimation, when we looked at virtual reality and all these things, we're supposed to be opening people up to, more topics, to have bigger visions, a bigger worldview. And it feels like the opposite's happened. People have become more myopic. They're more into their genre, whatever it is, their fetish, their topic, and they just go deeper and deeper and deeper into the whole thing. And they don't seem to understand what's going on in the rest of the world. Or are people becoming broader and more diverse, you think?
I would guess there's a little bit of both. I mean, I feel like these days it's becoming more and more siloed. And the more advanced the network that you're on, the more they've modeled you and your likely futures, and the more they're going to try to steer it towards that. I mean, we know that, Target knows when the girl's pregnant before her father does, They know, and Facebook can figure out what 14-year-old kids are going to find out that they're gay before the kids know they are. So, if you start marketing to someone, you start bringing them stuff based on their likely future, then they're kind of narrowing you before you've even made those choices.
It's like we're cows in some sort of pen, and I may have some gay tendencies as a teen, or I'm into some artist that might signal that I'm gay, but then the advertisers and marketers start signaling me more and more gay target-centric content or whatever, and it might actually lead me in that direction.
Or get you to...
Not that there's anything wrong with being led in that direction,
or get you to do more diet to start. They see that you worry one day about your diet, and then all of a sudden you're going to get spammed with everything. You're overweight. Oh, no.
And you do get followed around by the ads. It's kind of creepy now.
Well, that's the weirdest thing. I was looking for New Balance or something, and I'm looking for a weird color of New Balance. And then I just go and do a Google search, and then the ad, and I was like, oh man, they're all sharing the whole shebang. I didn't know whose cookie's involved in what's, whose template.
Well, then you have kids, and you go into your Netflix, and it's like, wow, you like dark documentaries and you like Disney movies.
Yep.
And it's like the algorithm's getting really confused by our single account, but also in our house, like I see all kinds
Oh,
of...
they've got it all down.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, the computers are learning more and more and more about us, but we're tending to know less and less about them. We're kind of moving back into the iPad, just sort of, stroke it here and there reality, while the computers on the other side are getting pretty intelligent.
So what you're saying is our experience is being dumbed down, the interfaces are being dumbed down, but the algorithms are getting more and more
Smarter
intelligent.
and smarter. And they only have one purpose, which is to extract, more money from us in less time.
So whoa. Extract more money and time from us.
More money from us in less time, ever more efficiently.
That's
you're
fascinating.
not supposed to just sit there. You're supposed
Right.
to be in...
So basically, people are spending all their time programming these things to make it easier for us to lose our money faster. It's almost like we're living in a huge casino.
Yeah, but the only reason we have to do that is just what I was realizing. It's not that anyone wants it like that. It's we have to do that because that's the way a growing economy works. That's the underlying operating system I'm talking about. The one that has to play out over time when we beat time. We're in digital land now. We don't have to play that game anymore.
And is the catch-up that we're trying, we're basically accelerating, and by doing that efficiency acceleration, we basically disrupt entire industries, jobs get evaporated, and the rich obviously get richer because whoever's on the top of this pyramid scheme is getting disproportionately rewarded, but the bottom is falling out.
Right. And
where does that lead society though?
Well, it's tricky. Then it dies anyway.
Right.
So it's like Clear Channel. They buy all the radio stations, they do all that until it's like, and they broadcast it out from one little place in Phoenix or somewhere, the entire nation, and then it dies. Right. So then they start selling it back, but the infrastructure's gone, the sort of the FM radio culture thing, and it moved here, I guess. It moved to the net.
So do you, after decades of studying this stuff, can you determine if it's getting worse or better, or is it just so cloudy now? Because we do see places like Europe, which are moving to, negative growth or, zero growth, and riots in the street, and people having money taken out of their bank accounts in Cyprus as a tax against them, even poor people, because the countries are, imploding. Is that the future for the United States, and is that the future for the whole world?
Maybe yes and no. Yes and no. I do think long term, what we're looking at is the transition from a debt-based growth economy to a present-based kind of a steady state economy, right? And on the only places we've seen this kind of stuff is, in weirdo places, right? Frankly, it's like, Ithaca hours and places like that where people are experimenting with time dollars and let systems and all that.
Wait, explain that. I have no idea what you're talking
where
about.
instead of borrowing money from the bank at interest and using that to transact, where a town or a large group of people can basically create a favor bank and say, okay, you've mowed my lawn, you spent these 3 hours, so now I'm 3 hours in debt to you, but I could pay the 3 hours to him. So basically...
And people have tested this?
Oh, yeah, it worked. Now, the places where it's working best are the places where the economy is so crashed that there's no way for them to get regular currency. So you see, like in Lansing, Michigan, you see people using alternative currencies in a smart way, or in Greece where they can't get the euro. Because what they've discovered in a real economy is if you have an expertise and I have a need, and I have an expertise and she's got a need, then we have the basis of an economy. We don't need to get a loan from a bank to put a factory down, particularly in the net age when a lot of us can build an iPhone app on your, on your computer. 2 kids can do it on a $2,000 laptop, not even, and post it up there and start getting 50 cents a pop.
What's the generational gap in perception about time? Because we're now, you might be 50, I'm 42. Yeah. I'm guessing you're 50 now?
Mm-hmm.
And we're Gen X, I guess, and we look at the world a certain way, but millennials look at it tremendously differently.
Yeah,
and baby boomers differently than us.
It's different in tons of ways, but from the time perspective, you and I were raised with the analog clock.
Right.
So we look at a minute or an hour as a portion of a day.
Right.
It's this portion of this thing that we live
the
from
pie
morning
chart.
to night. Right. For a kid being raised in a digital temporal environment, a minute or a second is an absolute, right? It's duration. It's not a segment. It's an absolute duration just hanging there in space. So what their experience of the passage of time, or of temporal reality, is choice to choice to choice to choice. We can do that when we go into a video game. We're in that. We're in the sort of present tense, choice to choice to choice to choice, when we were raised in a novel, right? We're watching our hero go through his story. It's already there.
Right.
So they're much more likely to be in one or the other present, either in the real present of this moment, or more likely chasing the present of their device.
Is that why we see so much melancholy, moodiness, emo-ness? Generally, the sort of millennials, and listen, they said it about Gen X too. We were sort of the depressed generation and the Prozac generation, but you do see a certain, and it's embodied, I guess, in the show Girls or any pop culture about this generation of millennials. We see this sort of, they're so anxious, and does that have to do with this sort of,
but
they're chasing time?
Yeah, but it's also a transition. I mean, we were raised in a world with beginnings, middles, and ends, with movements, with capitalism or communism or Catholicism. There was something at the end that we were working towards, even just the 401k plan. There was a thing. They don't have that, right? So there's no goal. You talk to even activists, talk to occupiers, and they'll say, well, we're not going to talk about goals or demands or what we want. We're actually doing the thing now. It's kind of that much more of a Burning Man sensibility.
I think I just understand your book in that very moment. Unpack that. So we actually bought into capitalism. We bought into a better life. We bought into getting the house, the car, the second house, the second car.
There's a story.
Yeah, there's some narrative that we actually believed, but they don't actually buy into.
They don't. Well, partly because of the millennium. Right? We went from the 19s to the 2000s, so we weren't leaning forward into the future. We're kind of in the present. They experienced 9/11, which was a huge discontinuity, even more for young people, and I think, than for us.
How so?
Well, a lot of them really talk about before and after. The idea of not having ideals. That there's this. They feel a real, at least the sort of the younger, smart ones I talk to, feel like this real need to reconnect to some history, to have some sense of purpose, some sense of origin. But they don't. I mean, you think about Facebook, where your friends from second grade have equal status to your friends from last week, where your future is already algorithmically determined by the thing. Your past and your future have just collapsed down into this one moment. So there's no sense of time. There's no sense of passage.
Interesting. I kind of feel like my life is also anchored in that sort of pre-9/11, post-9/11. It does feel like an anchoring point for many people. Why do you think that is?
Well, because it was a break, It was a break. It was really, it was clear as anything that a certain part of the American dream was over, that indestructible, infallible, keep growing up. We'll recover, things will happen, but
yeah. Well, clearly we
different.
have, right? More people have died from bee stings, since 9/11 than on 9/11, which is not to diminish it, but it is to put it in context.
Well, in terms of context, in terms of number of deaths, but it's not context in terms of American hegemony and world leadership and growth and all that.
And invincibility.
Right. But our youth, to their credit, are looking at things less in terms of big campaigns and long-term victories, and much more in terms of sustainability. If you don't have the kinds of narratives of we're going to go to the moon and stick a flag on the surface and win, or beat the Russians.
Do they need that? Is that one of the reasons why they're getting sort of tagged as this entitled, self-indulgent generation, is that they don't have something bigger to aspire towards or look forward to? Or do they have it right?
No, the reason they do have it right, some of them, but the reason they're getting tagged that way is because when you ask kids today what they want to be more than anything else, it's like 92% now, like kids under 13 say famous. That's it. They want fame. It's like, for what? They don't care. Just the fame.
They just want the fame.
They want the fame.
What about happiness?
They've seen American Idol. They're not ashamed to go on Facebook and say, please like my page. Give me votes. Give me numbers. Because they see the kids going, dial 2.
LMS, like my status. I didn't know what that was, that LMS. So it's just, but that's the standard desire we've all had, which is to be recognized in the universe. It's just actually manifested itself, as Andy Warhol predicted, as I want my 15 minutes.
Well, and I want my numbers. I want the metrics.
Yeah.
They want the metrics the same as a startup.
And it's much different than, say, the Gen X sort of group, where I think we just wanted to be, and I try to sum up what Gen X wanted in this turn of the century kind of time. It was, we wanted to create, we wanted to build stuff, we wanted to maybe innovate.
Well, and Gen X,
you're wearing the Silicon Valley Reporter shirt, which thank you for that.
We wanted to not be yuppies.
Yeah.
Right? And
absolutely
computers
not, yeah.
sort of made it look like, and I think they do, oh my gosh, I don't have to go get that job or go down that path. I can make something. You said, I'm going to make a magazine.
Right.
I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it.
I'm just going to do it. Fuck it.
Exactly.
Oh, shit. That's $20 for this fucking swear jar. $30.
And then you edit the shit later is the beautiful thing.
I'm just putting a hundo up for now. It's all going to charity.
well, that's
You're on
good.
me, Doug. It's all going to charity now.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know. It's just the swear jar is going to do
beautiful.
better than I was. So,
But
let's
you know,
talk-
but the thing
yeah.
about startups is the weird thing. You know, it's really tricky. You know, I feel like there's two kinds of startups in this world.
Mm.
There's the startups that I like, which are people that love doing something, and then they're looking for a little bit of help, and they are gonna just do it.
They're going to do it
period.
because they have to do it.
Well, and because
it's in
they
them.
love,
It's their DNA.
and it's
Yeah.
their thing that
Yeah.
the enterprise that they're getting involved in is the thing they care about. But then there are these people out there, and I've heard them speak that they don't anticipate doing that thing 18 months from now. It's like once they get to one of those series events,
Yeah.
they want to leave.
Right.
What is that? You know, unless they're partnered, unless
That's
they're
the
like
same thing that
professional
happened in Web
startups.
1.0.
Yeah.
When people were just, you know, the hangers-on came in and they wanted to have a win, you know,
They want a win for
whatever,
For whatever.
monetary,
Yeah.
whatever. Perhaps it's even fame. So how is the media changed? I mean, it seems to me, you know, and we went to a lot of Knicks games together over the years and spent a lot of time talking. I feel like a lot of the education I have and a lot of the way I think is from the time I got to spend with you in my
and
youth.
me with you.
No.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Sorry.
No, I think it's the other way around. I don't think you learned anything from me, but I did learn a lot, and I always appreciated that about how you took the time to explain these things to me. The media has changed tremendously, and it's going bankrupt in a way, like literally going bankrupt. And it seems to me that part of the reason they're going bankrupt is this presentism. Is that the
Presentism?
word? Presentism? Am I
Yeah,
pronouncing correct?
presentism in the positive. I usually call it presentism as opposed to like futurism. And
Gotcha.
then present shock is sort of when people can't deal with presentism.
Right. It does seem like the media enterprises are in present shock. When you have New York Times journalists worried about their page view count as opposed to worrying about telling the truth and the story that matters most. I mean, they're on tilt there because of whoever the
Right.
kid is who did the election predictions. I forgot his name. Screaming out if
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
You know the guy I'm talking about. Who's the guy who did the election predictions, Richard?
Yeah,
Nate
Silver. Yeah.
Richard Metzger off camera. Nate Silver, like, is this page view machine for them. He wound up being whatever, a third of the page views
Yeah.
during that time period. Those journalists are now into presentism.
Yeah, but he's the ideal sort of internet franchise for the New York Times because it's
Present.
present, it's
In the
immediate,
moment.
and it's statistics, it's numbers. You know, this is the number place, so that's where you see it. The streaming thing, the you know, all the John Borthwick's kind of like streaming everything
Yeah.
all the time, number
Right.
things. Where's
Yeah.
you with your geolocation and this? It's that Twitter stream feeling. I mean, and that's fine for that. Where New York Times gets in trouble is when they try to netify or digify stuff that actually is at home in the other universe. And I think it's okay. You know, it's like, on the one hand, I want people to be, you know, better and more effective digital citizens and digital people and digital business and use that stuff right and asynchronously and even in dehumanizing ways, because you know that you're going to be dehumanized now and do an Excel spreadsheet, but then to also remember what they got from the last society, from the good old industrial age, and
From the
top
three-act,
down.
you know.
From the 5-act structure, the 3-act structure, the beginning, middle, end, there are still storytellers we can give ourselves over to. I'm still watching, although you could be argued it's presentist. I'm giving myself over to, you know, Game of Thrones and,
Sure.
you know, and,
Well, I mean,
and the modern
binge
storytellers.
viewing is presentism at its finest.
It is.
Is it not?
In some ways, but then you also, what the present shock of, say, House of Cards is when I see somebody and I go, oh my God, are you watching House of Cards? And they go, yeah. You know, oh, I'm on episode 7. Oh no, I'm only on episode 3.
Right.
You know, so I'm just a walking spoiler at this point.
Right. It's fascinating.
So you don't have the, very rarely anyway, you have the next morning, did you see it?
Right.
And there's sort of an agreement. I feel like in like me and my Game of Thrones friends, there's sort of
Yeah.
an agreement that get to it by Monday morning.
yeah.
Or otherwise, everything's
All
fair.
bets are off. Right. You've got till Monday when the sun rises,
Right.
and if not, stay off Twitter.
I know. But thank HBO for having at least a discrete premiere. At least there's some.
Well, I feel like this is now, presentism has affected my Knicks viewership. Like there's a Knicks game on right now that I was watching, the Gamecast from ESPN, which is very presentism, right? Like it's showing you every shot, even though I'm not watching the video, it's it's a live blog, which we created at Engadget, by the way. Peter Rojas created that whole concept. But that very present sort of state. But I'm going to stay off Twitter until I get home after my poker game at 1 a.m. and watch the end of the Knicks game, the second half.
Right.
Because I know if I go on Twitter, I'm going to find out if Miami and who won and who lost. But I also don't seem to care about who won or still lost. I still watch the game. What does that say? Hey, everybody. What a great episode this is. I'm so happy that you're tuning into This Week in Startups. And this show is not cheap to produce. You get these expensive microphones, these great lights. We put a lot of effort into it, and we need support to do that. And one of our longest supporters for the show historically has been Squarespace. And one of the great things about having Squarespace as a partner for all these years is I use their product, and I've used their product for years. We use it for launch. We use it for everything we do. And they are able to make exceptionally beautiful looking sites in very easy fashion. And so when you think, I got to build a beautiful website and I got to build it right now, I got to get it up today, whether it's for your school or for a small business or a consulting firm or a photographer or your cousin, whoever it is saying, I need a website. Anybody can make me a beautiful website. I need a competitive, beautiful website. You think Squarespace. Somebody says website, you say Squarespace. Somebody says I need to build a beautiful website, you say Squarespace. Okay? That's all you need to know. And it's very easy for me to tell you to do that because I use it, family members of mine use it, business associates of mine use it. We use it all the time at inside.com, at launch, etc. You can instantly create now an online store. So my wife is building a natural foods business. She was like, I got to get this Magento, I got to get this thing. It's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. Guess what? Squarespace did it. They put it in the product, and you can sell digital and physical goods, and it starts at only $24 a month. I keep telling Anthony over there, you got to raise the prices on this. This is a $240 a month product. He tells me, I always want to help more people. I want to make it affordable for everybody, and I'll make it up in aggregate. And you know what? He's a smart guy, smarter than me. His business is incredibly successful. Starts at only $24 a month when you sign up for a year. And every site is automatically resized for the mobile version. So this is, if you were trying to build your website on your own, every time some new technology comes out, like mobile, or let's say you need to have e-commerce, you can then reinvent the wheel and pay a consultant 10 dimes, a highest society, 5, 10 dimes out of your pocket. Or you use Squarespace for a couple $100 a year, a couple of dollars a month, $20 a month, $30 a month, whatever it is. And guess what? You get those new features as they're released because Squarespace is on it. They're on it, so you don't need to be. And look at these beautiful templates here. Between Wind and Water, gorgeous. And these are all mobile templates. So when you click on that little triple bar there, which is what you see in iOS apps, that pulls up the menu, and you can go shop Between Wind and Water. Just gorgeous stuff here. And all of these templates will work when you're shopping. Oh God, this is so cool. These are cool. Look at that, the envelopes, and I love this stuff. And so this person is like, they want to make a virtual shop. They can make it overnight. They can make it the same day. Truth and Lies t-shirts, beautiful shopping collection. And it just works. You can add the stuff to your cart. You know how this stuff works. And here's ABK, custom leather craft, beautiful, beautiful stuff. And this is where, Squarespace plus commerce is such a great combination because they are awesome at making beautiful sites, and shopping is about beautiful sites, right? When you see a beautiful site, a beautiful wrapper, it encourages you to buy. When you see an ugly site, it's like, the product probably sucks, right? And so thank you so much to Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/twist, squarespace.com/TWiST to try it out for free. No credit card required. And if you decide to keep your site after the trial, please use the offer code TWIST4, TWiST4. Squarespace is everything you need to create an exceptional website. Yes, Squarespace is everything you need to make an exceptional website. And look at that. Oh, this is beautiful too. Look at this. Oh, wow. I like how the images float around on this one. Gorgeous. So this is Molecola. Squarespace.com. Molecola, Squarespace.com. Gorgeous stuff. Thank you. Everybody thank at Squarespace on your Twitter account. And let's get back to the program. Important stuff. Is that
That's I've given? That's good.
I kind of like zen. I've given up on the outcome is not as important as the journey.
Yeah, you're actually engaged in the process. That's middle age for you.
Is
but
it?
yeah, but I think it's a positive thing. I think it's also middle age as a society. That the whole goal seeking that was invented back in the colonial era. We're going to go and get more continents, and we're going to go and take over more slaves, and we're going to go extract more stuff out of the ground. That was all unnecessary on a certain to a certain extent. That's all an artifact of the kind of money we were using. That's all an artifact of trying to save the noble classes who were really losing ground fast to a peer-to-peer economy that was growing up. It's happening again. There is the peer-to-peer possibilities, whether it's Etsy and eBay and podcasting and everything else.
People are now, I mean, it's crazy to think, but artisanal food is becoming a very big deal, and food cooked at, from farms, where people are putting chickens in their backyard and having their own eggs. It's almost like they're saying, I'm going to get off the hedonic treadmill and I'm just going to have my own chickens, make my own eggs, and I'm going to trade eggs for something else. I mean, it's happening in Brooklyn and in upstate New York, right?
And the argument that that's less efficient no longer holds water for me. So what if it's less efficient than some industrial age process that's using, interstate highways to get food from one place to another? Efficiency is not the only value that matters. In certain ways, if you're less efficient about your soil use, you end up with a healthier topsoil. In industrial agriculture,
more nutrients.
Exactly. Our broccoli's got like half the nutrients
Well, I mean,
that
if
it
you
had
just look
25
at
years
wheat,
ago.
I mean, we basically genetically modified wheat to the point at making dwarf wheat, which is 1,000 times more efficient per acre, but also makes everybody fat.
Yeah.
Because our bodies don't know how to process it because it has no fiber. How does this affect politics? Because I feel like presentism is becoming... I almost feel like media and politics are the two places where it applies most. Obviously, technology is probably where it applies most, but how does it affect politics?
Well, I mean, you look at Obama. Obama certainly gave lip service to presentism. We are the change we've been waiting for. There's nothing more presentist than that. We're not going towards anything. This is it. We are it. This is it.
It's us.
Now is the time. We are the ones. It's just like, boom. It was so presentist, but when he got into office, it didn't feel presentist anymore. It didn't feel like an invitation. It was a great campaign, but it wasn't really a participatory real-time presidency.
So still a way to go there.
Yeah, but that's what I think the reason you saw the Occupy movement and the Tea Party alike, which are sort of two sides of the same presentist coin. The Tea Party is basically saying, now, give me the change now.
Right.
And Occupy is just like, we are here in the now.
Right, this is the now.
Yeah.
And the Occupy movement, it seems to me, was a failure. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think you're wrong. I think you have to look at it. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I think you have to look at it as a 1,000-year movement, as the beginning of.
So that was ending one. The first
not
5 minutes.
even. That was the first pitch.
Wow.
That was the first pitch. I mean, the second pitch was Occupy Sandy and Occupy Debt, which is going on now, which is where they're spending pennies on the dollar or on the $10 to get debt of people who are have medical debt and this debt and the other, just relieving it.
And how are they doing that? They're just complaining?
They've formed the kind of company that is just like any other credit buying company. So there are all these two-bit outfits out there that spend $10,000 and get $1 million worth of debt, and then do whatever they can to try to collect it. Well, what Occupy does: raise $10,000, buy $1 million of debt, and then relieve it.
Ah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing.
So
with Occupy,
yeah,
there were no demands. There was no efficacy. All they did was sit there. And they had, to me, two great moments. One was when they marched on Bloomberg's house, right? They went to his townhouse, and then they went to somebody else's townhouse. And I just thought to myself, my God, if you send 1,000 people to protest in front of a billionaire's house based on how much tax they didn't pay, and that's on CNBC and that's on CNN, what if they go to X internet CEO whose company just dodged taxes, right, and pays some very minuscule tax rate. And in Palo Alto, 500 people show up in front of the tiny little home of Steve Jobs or another place. Steve Jobs and Apple, didn't repatriate,
you mean start terrorizing the 1% for their corporate
basically,
malfeasance.
that would have worked so well. Now, I would go do that, except I am in the 1%. I don't want to be terrorizing myself. I don't want people protesting outside my house.
It's not really meant to be terrorizing the people. It's not. It's really meant as a new normative behavior, at least as I see it. It's okay, how could we engage? So it's really the greatest innovation I think they brought back was General Assembly. which here's a consensus building. So we want to replace sort of left-right argumentative debate politics with this new group consensus tool. And there's actually a startup, I guess you can call it, a nonprofit startup in New Zealand called, I forgot the name of it. Well, I'll tell you if you tweet me. That's basically General Assembly online. So there's all these big organizations, governments, even corporations now are using it as a way of discussing things. Sort of the way the open space technology worked, and people went into companies and they started to do sort of, let's have meetings about this or meetings about that.
It feels like the Republicans are changing in real time and starting to realize like the present is much more important than their past. They are flipping their position on gay marriage in real time. Like just at the taping of this interview in April 2nd, 2013, in the past, 30 or 60 days, we've seen Republican after Republican say, we're expanding our view on this issue, which basically means we're changing our minds. And then, after they lost the election, last 90 days, changing their minds on immigration. We wanted to build a huge wall and keep the Mexicans out. Now we want to have a path to citizenship for the 10 million Mexicans who are essentially building this goddamn country for the last couple of decades, right? Mm-hmm. They have flipped in real time. Or is that a sign of presentism?
Yeah, well, it's a sign of...
losing? Losing to elections to a black man.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it reveals how specious their faith in their own beliefs is.
Yeah, what are they flipped quick.
Yeah, they flip quick, and they flip quick. We all seem to flip quicker now than we did before. But yeah, I mean, election cycles, the interesting thing is they seem so much faster now. It's all the time. There's no time there's not a presidential run. I mean, the presidential campaigns are kind of already happening now, for the next time out, one way or another.
There used to be like a 3-year gap where we could all just calm down about it, but it's all jockeying now.
And they could go govern. Again, in other words, there was a cycle. There's an election cycle, competition, fight, advertise. All right, let's go govern. We'll pass a bill. We'll do this. That other stage, there's no govern time now.
What about education? I mean, what are your thoughts on education today? We see it's $250,000 to go to university. You teach at one of those universities.
I can't. I couldn't afford it.
You teach at a university you couldn't afford to go to.
No, that I couldn't afford to teach at. I could only get adjunct. So there's kids paying $60,000, $70,000, and I'm getting like 3 or 4. Wow. So that didn't work.
Huh.
No, so meanwhile, the same universities are using like 95% adjunct teachers who don't have the same ability.
Skills.
Well, the same ability to commit. If you're an adjunct teacher, you're being paid for your 2 or 3 hours a week. You're not supposed to sit there and do meetings and advising and.
Right.
It's just I couldn't as a working writer, I couldn't afford to give that, to give that time.
Well, what do you think about education today?
The weird thing is, education, like so many other industries in a digital media environment, is a la carte, right? It's you get your iTunes singles instead of buying the record. You can get the one episode of the show you want to watch, and you can choose what one course you want from anything. You don't have to go through the prescribed layout anymore.
And so, as a parent, is your hope that your child goes to college, or is your hope that they a la carte it?
I liked being a member of a society, or a wealthy enough member of a society, to be able to take 4 years and dedicate that time to just learning stuff with other people. That might be a luxury we can no longer afford as a nation, as an economy, but it's really valuable. It was really formative. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's some weird liberal artsy thing. The whole idea that you're gonna. What was college really for? It was for gentlemen. They wore sweaters and walk around quadrangles.
Yeah.
It was like.
It's kind of weird and outdated, but it does feel like it's a nice luxury for the Western world. But to be $250,000 in debt or $100,000 in debt.
It's unreasonable.
It's unreasonable, is it not? Yeah.
To burden yourself with that for what? You probably get them too. I get a ton of email from kids graduating high school or in their freshman year of college going, can I just come and work with you?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's cheaper. They work for free. It's cheaper for them.
I think it's better that they just pay for an apprenticeship somewhere. Like if you think about it, if you had $250,000 and I said to your child, for the next 5 years, I'll give you $50,000. Pay $10,000 to go get a trade skill each year and spend $40,000 on your living expenses. They would get further along, wouldn't they?
They would. I mean, and you look, I mean, that's the kind of thing that pre-meds who become doctors do. They go to college and they're learning the skills. They're taking the courses, they're getting the A's, and they're getting through. Or they do a 6-year med program. They don't even really do college. So, there's certainly rich, educated people who opt for that. But the thing that I think we miss are these sort of communities of learning. The cohorts that you can develop in maybe it's an idealized situation, but even in, I would think in almost any college, you end up in one seminar, one group, one thing happens.
And that defines you, or could define you potentially.
You feed off it for years.
Yeah. All right, let's go through some of these buzzwords. You're amazing at making, new words up.
I try to make viral media was a good one, but I didn't get a quarter. Yeah, media virus was the book.
Media virus. That's amazing. You came up with that word.
I know. I want
long before
0.0005 cents for
when
every
was
time.
That? What year did you?
93.
Wow. That's fascinating.
And that was before the web, really.
Yeah.
That was viral as in
MTV.
Woody Allen. Yeah, Woody Allen and Sun Yi and Amy.
You understood that concept, I guess.
It was starting. Lateral peer-to-peer fax machines and beginnings of email were happening.
All right, let's go through them here.
Yeah.
Digiphrenia? Did I get that right?
Yeah, digiphrenia. I mean, digiphrenia is the kind of present shock that we kind of get from our devices. It's the digital one. Because, a lot of people were talking, especially back in the day, about information overload. And the big problem humans are going to have online is information overload. And I've never really had a problem with information overload. If there's too much information, I'll turn it off. Stop reading. Go to the bathroom.
Whatever,
it's like leave. It wasn't that. For me, the unease is having sort of multiple instances of myself online functioning without my full awareness and control. It's why I was sort of comfortable with Twitter, because it only does things really on my behalf when I tweet them out or people are retweeting me. And I was uncomfortable with Facebook, and I left after you did, but it was because I no longer knew what it was doing on my behalf.
That's the scary part. I put my feedback on and syndicated my Twitter there, and then I started to go to I saw my feed one day, and I guess because I have so many followers, every single marketer or friend of mine who was marketing something would tag me in their photos. I mean, by the way, if you're my friend and you do this, it's so douchey, it's unbelievable. It's like showing up at a dinner party I'm having when you weren't invited and being like, hey, what's up? I just wanted to tell everybody about some shit I'm doing that's not relevant to the conversation. I'm out. They literally post shit on your wall.
Well, and that's other users, though. But what about when Zuck is doing it to you? What about when you show up in a sponsored story about something?
Oh, that's bullshit.
Worse, when one of you, people who's liked your page shows up in a sponsored story about you or about the thing that you're supposed to be shown up in.
It's so confusing. It's like, what? When did I give my endorsement? I'm endorsing what?
Exactly.
I liked a
even
restaurant,
if you understand
and now
that,
I'm their spokesperson?
And even if you go into all of your stuff and change your profiles and pick the right radio buttons
work.
and do it. But even if it did, let's just say it did, and they were being honest about that, how could you, as a kind of as a net teacher at this point, as one of the people who's kind of teaching appropriate ways of dealing with that, how can we go on there and solicit likes from people and companies that are only going to make them vulnerable to stuff that we don't even know what they're vulnerable to?
It's almost like when you think about when the internet started, Zuckerberg and what he did with Facebook was everything we were fighting against.
Oddly enough, although we were also fans of the social net. We were fans of it being social.
We wanted community, but we didn't want this kind of community. We didn't. I mean, this is like being in Willy Wonka's factory or something where
And he had the chance. That sort of thing I look at. I look at Facebook. I look at Google. I look at Twitter. And I think these guys, they were ready to disintermediate everybody, right? Whether it was the book industry and Amazon or retail, or whether it was the search engine with Google by doing it from bottom up. They're so ready to flip it, but in the end, they're still just shareholder-driven companies. They were afraid to challenge the biggest operating system of all. So as such,
capitalism,
right? Or central, or the way it works. There is VC and bank investment and all that. The way it works now, they couldn't challenge that one. I think these guys. That's why I look at them. These digital companies, not as the first digital age companies, but as the last industrial age companies. Using digital tools, but the first real digital age companies. We'll see.
Oh, they won't be subservient to the stock market.
Right. They'll be what PayPal kind of tried to be. But then they got ready. They were going to make their money on the float and not charge anybody anything. But then the banks came along and said, "Oh, you can't do that. You're not regulated like a bank." So they had to then team with a bank instead. So the genuinely disruptive, potentially disruptive, big businesses have ended up going on the stock exchange and becoming part of business as usual, one way or another.
What's your take on the last half dozen dictators on the planet? You have like Kim Jong-un and Ahmadinejad, and you get this sort of like dying cohort.
Yeah.
And is the world in fact going to get better and safer, or do you think, because of present thinking in a way, like, or is this going to get dangerous? I mean, we at the time of this taping, and people might be watching this 20 years from now, we can't tell if Kim Jong-un is serious about lobbing rockets at the United States, or if he's just a kid who is just screwing around and wants more aid to get more movies or something. I don't know, or is hanging out with Dennis Rodman. I mean, when you look at this as a media theorist and you're trying to figure out what's actually going on in the world.
I would have to say better, not worse. And the reason why better would be because of presentism. It's the industrial age was really good at creating great distance between those of us who buy stuff and those of us who die making it. Right, whether it was the coolie labor or whatever, or the stuff going on in China and India, or whether it's God knows who's losing their lives in Africa to get the transistor
diamond
or part for your iPhone or whatever it is.
Rare minerals.
Right, the industrial age helped separate us from the people who were putting time and energy and blood into the stuff that we have. The net does make us much more witness to what's going on. I just was playing with this website called slaveryfootprint.org. Have you seen this one?
No, I haven't.
It's really crazy. You go on it and you type in all the stuff you have, how big your house is, and whether you have one car or two cars, and it tells you how many slaves work for you. And it's a way of making you more aware of the 4 million people out there who are slaves. But what is this? This is basically bringing people back into the present, saying that, okay, even if these people are far away, you can actually know about them now. Right, so it makes their time visible to us.
So I take a survey. Do I own? Where do I live? Well, that's in the United States.
So I think the more people do things like this in one way or another, the more aware people are, the harder it is for us to justify our relationships with these horrible dictator types and what keeps them alive.
Wow, this is crazy. Oh, let's go back to the buzzword. Sorry, I wanted to get through these. Overwinding.
Overwinding occurred to me when I read, Stuart Brand. He wrote this book, The Clock of the Long Now. And he was talking about trying to think in 10,000-year lifespans. And as I thought about trying to think in a 10,000-year lifespan and the pressure that put me under every time I had a piece of plastic in my hands, I realized I'm not feeling this like a long forever or a long now. I'm experiencing it like a short forever. It's like this perpetual kind of panic moment. So overwinding is when we try to take really long time spans and shove them into really tight ones, like the way algorithmic and ultra high frequency trading kind of takes a year of trades and shoves them onto the head of a pin, Or I got the idea for the chapter when I was watching The Housewives of Orange County, and looking at the way they kind of put so much Botox in their face, the way they're trying to sort of freeze time at age 29. But then they end up getting into all these misunderstandings with others because they can't make the facial expressions that are consonant with the emotions that they're expressing.
Well, there's a science fiction moment. Right?
It is a science fiction
like a
moment.
Twilight Zone episode.
Right. So in order to try to stop time, they've made themselves unavailable to the now, to the real present that they're engaged in with the others.
Fascinating. Okay, one more.
A fun one.
Fractalnoia.
Fractalnoia. The idea of fractalnoia is that when you're living in a world with no time, you can't understand things through stories. You can't understand things through cause and effect anymore because we're always in the now. So if you have to understand the world in the now, in a snapshot, then you're basically going to understand things not by understanding the stories, not by understanding the history or the logic, but by making sense of the picture, by trying to draw connections between things. And it gets you into all sorts of bizarre conspiracy theory, like the whole 9/11 truther thing was so typical of a society that needs to make sense of things in this moment without access to the story, to the history, to the real thing that may have led to it.
Right. They want to pin it on Cheney and
it has to be in
the Saudis and the Israel. You
have to be able to take a picture of it and see in that picture how it all fits together.
And you can't wind back and see Osama bin Laden born into whatever situation.
Right,
and
CIA training or this
Right.
or that, and the war in Afghanistan and Russia and this
Right.
and this plot. And that, so even if there is a real conspiracy, we end up losing it for trying to make sense of it, right then and there in that second.
Apocalypto.
Well, apocalypto is sort of when even smart people, like some of our kind of cyber theory people out
Like
there.
you.
Well,
Sometimes me on
or my colleagues.
Yeah.
It's very hard once you sort of grasp that we are living in this eternal present, that we are living in a digital media environment. It's hard to say, well, what's going to happen? Where's this going? Where is it taking us? So some really smart people can't see it as we're in the now. They have to have an ending. So they take, because they're so disoriented, because they're in present shock, they take their basically Christian story, structure and slop it right on the digital age and say, oh, well, we're moving towards the singularity, this great moment of emergence and transcendence where humanity is going to flip into another state or where technology is going to get smarter than us. And we're going to find out that, the whole story is really information just wants to evolve to higher states of complexity. And once humans are no longer the best in doing it, but computers are, humans can then be left behind and computers can keep going. And that's not just silly, but it's a self-loathing, kind of a human loathing approach, one that's really consonant with the sort of growth market capitalism thing, but not really consonant for people who are trying to get more time in relationships.
What happens in the future is at once incredibly underwhelming and at other times just inconceivable. I mean, when they asked people 30 or 40 years ago to look at the future of Los Angeles, we all predicted there would be, these elevated highways,
monorails,
flying
and
cars, and monorails, and they're just now building the first subway. It's not even a subway; it's an above ground thing, but they're just building it right next to us here in Culver City, and it's not even to the water yet. But then in other ways, the AT&T commercials and the power of the phone in our pockets is just mind blowing.
Well, our physical infrastructure sort of lagged behind.
We haven't gone back to the moon either. I mean,
Yeah.
people would thought, well, if this was 1970 and we're talking about what 2013 would be like 43 years later, we would think we'd be on Mars by now, and we'd certainly at the very least have a colony of 1,000 people on the moon. We haven't been back. We have people endorsing ads for products they don't know they're endorsing to their friends who don't know that they endorsed it on Facebook.
That's what we did
that's where the
instead.
science got us. And we're plowing digital crops on Farmville.
Yeah. On the bright side?
Wow, thank you everybody for tuning in to another amazing and inspiring episode of
On
This
the
Week in
bright
Stardust.
side, though, people actually need to work less to produce everything that everybody in the world needs. We really are at the place where we have enough stuff. So now all we have to do is figure out how do we divvy out the stuff. Right? The problem is not that there's not enough jobs. Not enough jobs in some sense to me is a good thing. I don't particularly want a job. I'd like stuff.
Right. Right. And so
I'd
how
like
much
meaning.
stuff
I'd like to
per
meaning.
job?
I like
Right.
to work and make meaning, but I could do that without a job just fine.
Right.
The real question is how do we divvy out stuff if there's not enough work for people to clock in that they deserve the stuff? We can't. So we destroy houses in California, as we speak, because they're in foreclosure and it will drop your housing prices. We burn food every week because what are you going to do? Is to let people just have it?
If you give it to them for free, then it's going to stop capitalism.
Or something.
Or something, perhaps.
So
but the fact is, the solution might be for everybody to go down to a 30-hour work week.
Or a 20-hour work week. The problem is every time they try something like that, interesting with time, we're still in the industrial age version of time. Again, why I want to get people into presentism. If you get them down to 15, 20 hours a week, they'll get another job to fill the other 20 hours.
As opposed to doing what?
Enjoying your family, teaching people, taking old ladies out for walks. There's
Doing
all sorts of
anything.
stuff. Doing anything.
And that's where we're going to have to make a decision at some point as a society, you think? Because we can't stay on this treadmill, can we?
We can't. The reason why we can't is because we don't have enough human time. We're frying our nervous systems. We're taking Prozac and everything else, or Adderall to keep going.
Right.
There's a point at which human beings say enough. And that's a good point to get to.
Huh.
When you start taking back your time, you took back some of your time.
Sure.
You got a family, you got a child, you want to play. I'm going to do Legos on the floor instead of earn this
absolutely.
other $1 million or whatever.
Yeah. Well, also, it's like I got to hire somebody to do the work I, don't want to do, and there's enough money to go around, I guess. I don't know.
But your ambition changes, though.
It
and
does,
I feel
doesn't
like as a culture, not just as people, I feel like as a culture, we're approaching a kind of a middle age. We're getting out of that forward-moving, always driving, ambitious adolescent state, and realizing
the United States.
Yeah, and we've kind of reached the limits of what we can do colonially, how far we can expand economically, and we're realizing that we'd rather play the kind of game where you play to keep the game going, like a good fantasy role-playing game, rather than a game that you play to win, because when you win, you end the play.
Yeah, and then you have billions of people in China and India who are starting their game.
Just starting, yeah.
Just
But we gotta
wondering
see.
if they can get an apartment or a house.
Yeah,
perhaps
and
a
what game are
car.
they going to play? Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know yet.
And then Europe, they're done playing. I mean, they're sort of, 20 or 30 years ahead of us and saying, well, I'm just going to take July and August off and I'll work for whatever number of days per year, but I don't need a lot of money. And if I live with my parents or whatever, if I'm not in as big an apartment, it's better that I have more dinner parties and work less.
You would think. Real dinner parties, not Tupperware parties.
No.
Yeah.
All right, listen. This is. Oh wait, did I miss any of these?
If you did, it's good because then they have to
buy the book.
Not just for themselves, but for all of the thousands of members.
Is the
of their
audiobook
startups.
out yet? And are you reading it, or do you have somebody reading it?
Audible just bought. I offered to read it. I don't think they're interested.
I don't think they want you reading it.
No, that's all right.
I'll have you read it to me.
You can read it.
Well, listen, everybody. Get Present Shock When Everything Happens Now by Doug Rushkoff. One of the smartest cats I know and have known for a long time. Fascinating discussion and continued success, my friend.
And you too. Let's start the Silicon Alley Reporter again in print.
I never go backwards. I never go. It's always my rule.
The news.
Henry Blodgett called me. I want to do Silicon Alley Insider. I want to give you like 5% of it, and I want you to be. And I was like, I don't go backwards. I just read it when
Time only moves forwards.
Well, no, you know what? When I was a kid, I just identified with Bob Dylan because I was kind of an outcast, and that's all I did was like listen to Dylan records. And he said, "Don't look back," and that was like the name of the documentary and everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "You can't look back. You have to move forward." And like this is when Dylan was doing like Knocked Out Loaded and Empire Burlesque and all these freaky albums, and I had them and I listened to them, and I just felt like I would rather be moving forward and trying new shit than ever look backwards. And so like press clippings and old magazines and copies of Silicon Alley Reporter or Engadget, I don't want to even know about it.
Right.
And when people bring it up, I'm like, the people are, oh, we can do Silicon Alley Reporter reunion. I'm really like against it.
But at the same time, what you do every new project, you retrieve the values and lessons
of
old ones and bring them to bear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why what I'm doing with Inside.com, you'll see when you see it, it's like shades of Silicon Alley Reporter, shades of Engadget, shades of Mahalo, everything. I don't know. Hey, what was I like? There's an audience here who's very much into me. This audience is very much into me. What was I when you met me in my formative years? I hate to make the show about me, but you were a profound influence on me. I can tell you that now. Like I literally, when I came into the industry in 1995, 96, I was such a neophyte. I really didn't know anything. But I was filled with ambition. And
you were not just filled with ambition, though. You had ambition. That goes as a given. But you were having so much fun doing the thing you did, and genuine, unashamed fun at everything that was happening along the way.
Yeah.
We flew to South by Southwest.
Second one.
The second one. I think it was the second one. South by Southwest. And we flew business class. And the stewardesses, I saw them cooking something. And I had flown business class before for a book tour. And I said, they're going to come with warm nuts. And he's like, you're shitting me. Oh, sorry. You're shitting me. They're not gonna have warm nuts. What are you talking about? And then the stewardess came,
gave me warm nuts. And I was in business class because you talked me into business class because you told them you were an author at the front thing.
Oh,
and I was interviewing you for Wired Magazine or some lie. And they were like, and you're like, he's interviewing me. I know there's empty seats. I'm Douglas Rushkoff. I'm an author. Here's my books. So anyway.
We have to do an interview. It has to be quiet.
It has to be quiet. Is there any way he could sit with me?
Great.
And the woman let you do it.
Right.
So we even did it.
Yep. And that was also the moment that you decided not to sell
Silicon Alley
Reporter to some millionaire who shall remain nameless.
Right.
But But you were the thing that was you were just so genuinely excited. And to me, I remember the day that the space.com guy.
Yeah.
What's
What was his name? Lou Dobbs?
Lou Dobbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the time he was space.com, and he came because he'd done CNN and stuff before, and you were just so psyched. Lou Dobbs is in my loft. Lou Dobbs is in my loft. You know
so
what I mean?
cool. Yeah.
And it was
Because he was hosting CNN at 5 o'clock every
Right.
night. He was like the biggest news person.
No,
He'd
and
like
it
saying
was just-
Anderson Cooper.
exactly. But it was just you were just always delighted to get to do this stuff, and not ashamed. I mean, and I was the same way, not ashamed to be like, ooh, this
is fun.
is fun. There
Having
was
the
no
time of my
goal.
life.
Exactly.
Having the time of my life.
Yeah.
Still am.
God bless.
After all these years. You too, huh?
Yeah.
Still doing it.
Yeah. I'm still on my soapbox.
Still on your soapbox. And people listen. It's going to be very interesting. You think, how old are we going to live? So you kind of think the singularity is kind of goofy, don't you?
I know it's goofy.
It is
the
so
only
goofy.
thing that's horrifying about it is the way people have been. I'm not afraid of technology taking over our lives and all that. What I'm horrified by is the extent to which theorists I've known and loved see it as a necessary and good thing. That.
Yeah. You're going to live forever. You're going to upload yourself to a
Right.
computer, and your consciousness will be there.
And their inability to really differentiate between to not see human consciousness as a precursor to complexity, rather than complexity as a precursor to consciousness. They put us last all the time, and I'm just sick of that. From my perspective, we come first.
Right.
And I'm a human. I mean,
And the
I got to
machines
root
aren't
humans.
catching up with us, it doesn't seem.
Not in an awareness level.
Right.
No.
And it's not going to happen in our lifetime, do you think?
No, but they could be more skillful manipulators than we are as they learn
Oh, yeah.
how to play us.
So you don't buy into Skynet and they're going to take over and be able to, any of that sort of dystopian stuff.
Not to that extent. They don't need to get there to totally control us and get us to take medications to cover up the fact that we're so unhappy. They don't need to go there. They're already won.
Fascinating. All right, this has been a fascinating hour with Doug Rushkoff. Thank you so much to Squarespace and to MailChimp for sponsoring the program. And everybody follow Doug on Twitter. He is, are you just at Rushkoff? Yeah, just at Rushkoff. That's what I thought. Everybody follow at Rushkoff. And your website is?
Rushkoff.com.
Rushkoff.com, of course. And buy the book. An amazing book, Present Shock, Everything. When Everything Happens Now by Doug Rushkoff. You're going to really love it. And wow, look at that. Sherry Turkle and Howard Rheingold. You got all the Walter Isaacson. Lots of good people here. All right. We'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.